Okay, we're recording live.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. Our guest today has served 10 years in the Canadian Armed Forces. He is known for his problem-solving abilities and his relentless determination that has led him to be a highly regarded coach. Please welcome Martin Hunter. Martin, how you doing today? Thanks so much for being on the show.
Good. Thank you very much. I feel wow. That's my wife tells me all the time, "What are you doing? You stop being a bum." No, it's nice to hear good things for once. Not just teasing.
It is funny when somebody does an intro
That's
for you
good.
for something you're like, really? Like that? Okay, that's kind of interesting. I remember Devin.
There was
I
like a whole
remember-
script. I broke it down to
Dude,
like 3
Devin, love
lines.
you, brother, man. I was like, no, there's too much. Oh, I love how you filtered it down. Let's do it. Let's do it.
got a buddy of mine, Tony Lilios. He lives now. He lives in Lake Tahoe now, and he was on our show a few weeks back. And Devin did this whole intro for him, and he goes, "Oh man, Dev, can you like follow me around? And every time I kind of get in front of anybody, you'll stand up and do that for me."
It's like in Game of Thrones, your titles. Tell the titles. First of his name, Keeper of the Iron Throne.
I'm Scottish of heritage, and so when Scottish men used to go in battle, they used to recite. So Mac is son of. So some people
Right.
used to be able to recall almost 200 years of fatherhood, right? It was from man to man, and they'd say Martin, son of George, son of John, son of this, and they'd go
Right.
on for 20 minutes remembering their heritage before going in battle. I was like, man, you've lost, get into battle, right? You like the haka for rugby, right? You
That's
lose that
right.
energy, like, oh,
Yeah.
like a history class before you go for a fight. Oh my goodness.
And then
That's
you've
what
got
it is.
us. Then you've got us Welsh here.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. No way.
This pandemic's over, and I walked into the British butcher yesterday to get some, sausages and all this stuff.
Yeah.
They had these things on. Like they had Scottish, Irish, English, and they
Oh,
had the Welsh. So I had to get a Welsh
of
one.
Oh,
course.
come on.
Simru, you taffy.
That's right. Okay, so our show here, what we do at the beginning is we start off with something that's called Two Truths and a Lie. So we've got Martin here, and I'm going to read these out, and Devin and I are going to guess which
Yeah.
one is the lie, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so Dev, here we go. So
Hmm.
here we go. Martin speaks fluent Arabic. Martin speaks fluent Arabic is number one. Okay, number two, Martin has lived and worked on 6 continents.
Hmm.
6 continents.
Yeah.
And I love this last one. I love this last one. If there was only one cuisine to eat all day, every day, it would be Vietnamese.
Oh,
Bam. We are huge Vietnamese.
that's just facts, man.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you got like 50% chance, man.
It's like pho, because everybody goes around going, "Oh, pho, pho, pho." It's actually, if you're in Vietnam, it's actually pronounced pho, like, but
Yeah.
it's got a little pho, the little squiggle on the last O or something there. So it's yeah. Oh man. What do you think, Dev?
Let's see. The countries make sense. Eating
Yeah.
Vietnamese food every day makes
Yeah.
sense. I
Yeah.
mean, I think
Salam
you speak
alaikum.
Arabic. Oh,
What?
maybe he just knows a little bit. Salam. Okay, I'm gonna go with you're not fluent, but you do know
That's
a fair
right.
amount
That
of
is
Arabic.
correct. That
Yeah.
is correct. I am not fluent in Arabic.
Because I was going to test you. I was going to say something like, if I said shokran to you, what would you say in reply? And you probably,
I'd say you're welcome.
yeah, that's right. Off one, off one. That's right. You'd say off one. I studied a little bit of Arabic like years and years ago.
Cool.
And your history is really crazy. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be on your podcast a couple of weeks ago. It's called What CEOs Talk About, or What CEOs Talk
Mhm.
About. So it's right.
That is
Yeah,
correct. Thank you.
really, really cool. And I really appreciate that. And your history, when we were talking, we went on for a long time because there's a lot of commonalities, a lot of travel stories, a lot of really crazy stuff. But I've never been in the military, and you're in the Canadian military for like 10 years, and so you want to tell us just a tiny bit about that experience?
Then I'd have to go to your place and no. I come from the East Coast, right? So my mom and my dad So my dad off the boat, my mom French, and so born in Montreal, raised on the East Coast. And there's in the 80s the fishing went down, and so back to Montreal, weren't very rich. I always said, we're poor. We like so poor we couldn't afford the R at the end of poor, right? So uh so I mean, I don't get me wrong, we always had food and stuff like that going on, but and coming from a family of military, right? My both of my grandfathers were in the Second World War. My
Mhm.
father was in the Navy, my brother was in the armed forces as well. uh, it just came natural. It's always what I wanted to do, and I had a clear vision of what I wanted to do, and I just did it. And so I joined when I just turned 18 years old.
Yeah.
My dad had to sign me up and do all the paperwork before that. So it's something I also wanted to do, and this, and now I recognize it as being a servant leader, right? Leading people is
Mhm.
something that I
Mhm.
absolutely truly love to do.
Mhm.
And service then became what I like to do. I just couldn't put my finger on it, right? So traveled the world, did some fun things, did some not so fun things. Bosnia, Southeast Asia, South America, stuff like that. And the evolution of taking its toll on my family,
Mhm.
right? They have a saying in French, right? Qui marie patrie, which is meaning that if you marry your husband, you also marry the country. And so,
Uh-huh.
but that was at the time where the military was really doing a radical change. It was just before the Kuwaiti War, Desert
Mhm.
Storm, and
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
Afghan War. And so the military has changed a lot, has evolved a lot, because PTSD. When I came back from Bosnia,
Yes.
on the second tour, I had to dig graves for children that were killed through military action of others. Right, so
Mm.
that was really harsh on me, and it took me 10 years. But back then, it was like, suck it up, Buttercup,
Yes,
right?
that's right. That's right.
So
Mhm.
that was different. I mean, it was it made me who I am today. I see helicopters, and I lived and worked in helicopters. So um doing operations from helicopters more
Yeah.
likely. And so I miss it to this day. And every time I need to show off shooting BB guns in front of friends, and they put a balloon really far, and I go, "You can't get that." I say, "I'll bet you $100 I can." So I make money. I make money sharking people with a BB gun. But as you guys
Oh
know, where we
man.
live, right, bears are everywhere, man. That bear, he won't
Mhm.
move. I shoot him with a BB gun all the time, and he doesn't.
He's not moving.
He's still rummaged through my green bin. Oh my goodness! So what I chain it up. I put it in. He cracked open the shed the other day. That bear is just odd for a mission. But anyways,
Yeah. and then you spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, and then you're down in New Caledonia, and then I
correct.
remember, and then the tsunami. So there was the tsunami, the big tsunami. Now this isn't the one that hit Japan. This is before that. This is the one that kind of devastated. Was it Banda Aceh in Indonesia and all those other areas? I believe that was the tsunami that you were working in emergency response, I believe, or something then.
Yeah.
And then
So
you,
the
yeah,
so there was a tsunami. I think it was 2009 or
yeah, that,
2008. Yeah. So the
yeah, I
one that
think
hit
so. Yeah,
Samoa. Yeah. So
that's
we
right.
were doing an exercise with a triannual exercise of three countries, South Pacific kind of. Um, I don't want to say giants, but the largest economies. So you had France from New Caledonia,
Mhm.
Australia, and New Zealand. So it's called France, Australia, New Zealand, and
Hmm.
they do humanitarian aids through helping the economies of the South Pacific, through trouble. So we're doing. France was holding it. I was in New Caledonia. The French commissioner hired me to facilitate the exercise. And lo and behold, the day right after, we had to cut the exercise short because of that tsunami that hit. And basically, they applied principles that I taught them right there and there, how to improve their response through different countries. And it was, and that was like, that's in
Yeah,
2009.
yeah,
Crisis management, business continuity, emergency response was just kind of getting into the world. And now
Mhm.
with the pandemic, I mean, I started doing pandemic planning back in 2004 with Shell and other companies, and everybody back then was like, what happens if the the finance department, everybody gets ill? Well, how about the entire world gets ill, right? so yeah, that was a pretty cool event. Like, I've got still to this day on my in my office wall, I've got the letter signed by the French representative of the government. I just
Yeah.
feel good, right? You did something good, and you're like, whoop whoop.
Yeah, I remember when that happened because I was over in I was in Malaysia and I was in Bintulu, kind of on the Sabah and Sarawak side of Malaysia,
Mhm.
and we had a rep there, this fellow Adizan, and I remember I came back to Canada, and then it was like Christmas. I think the tsunami was right around Christmas, and he said I was on vacation with my son. He had a little boy, and he was at the beach, and then suddenly the ocean went out, and it went out, and
Mm.
it went out, and it went out and everybody was like, well, what's going on? People are running onto the beach picking up the fish, right?
Mhm.
Throwing them in baskets. And then he ran and he knew what was going on. He was an ex British military
Mhm.
forces, special forces guy, and he worked for us over there as our rep. And he kind of figured out what was going on. He got away and he was okay, but a lot of that area got wiped out. And then Devin, myself, and our family were in Phuket a few years before that, and in Thailand,
Mhm.
and the whole hotel, everything that we stayed got completely wiped out. Like it was gone.
It's crazy.
And it was very surreal. Like that really resonated because I was there. I was there like twice, two different those places. And so what you were doing there, and so thanks, so much for helping, the people, and because a
Yeah,
lot
no
of
problem.
help, a lot of helpless people for that just terrific. And then Japan. And you and I, we had some stories the other
Oh
day
my
about
goodness, yeah.
Japan because my wife and Devin's half Japanese, and
And
we go
half
back to
Welsh
Japan a
on you,
lot.
man. So
Yeah.
I don't take the Welsh part on you, man. I it's a good mix, man. That's what Canada's is all about. That's awesome,
It's
man.
Yeah,
it's it's
totally.
it's hilarious. Yeah, I know. I get the piss taken out of me sometimes when I go back to the UK, and it's just like, oh, well, I'm Welsh, and like, oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
they throw me a leek. They throw a leek, one of the vegetables, a
Yeah.
leek, and that thing.
Oh
I'm like, what
yeah.
do I do with this thing? I don't know. I can't. I don't use it as a weapon. Um, but you've done a lot of work like with so out of the military,
Mhm.
in your civilian life, then you became advisor, coach, to CEOs and corporations around the globe,
Mhm.
and it brought you to Japan. And then there's something we talked about the other day about Kaizen. Kaizen,
Mhm.
I don't know, Kaizen, right?
Mhm.
The continual
Good change.
every day, making
Yeah.
every single day, and then how are you work with that, and we're helping to implement that type of thing into these corporations. So that's what you're doing now is
Yeah,
your
absolutely. I mean, we Urgio is I'm the managing partner of Urgio, and we
Origio,
are,
yeah.
yeah. So Urgio dated back when I first started the company, was more crisis managers, business continuity, and then you came soon to realize that crisis
Mm-hmm.
management and business continuity is just business on steroids. You're just managing risk at a higher frequency than you are in a regular business. So I brought
Right.
all this high efficiency methodology to businesses, and they go, we can do that a lot faster. Well, I mean, this is what I've been doing for a while, and yes, you can. And so we've merged a few things, having an agile sprint methodology to business improvement as well, where you
Mm-hmm.
pick sprints. You say, okay, let's let's take these backlog of issues, let's prioritize these issues,
Yeah.
just like the tech companies do. And they go, okay, well, let's focus on finance for 2 weeks, right? Let's focus on logistics for 2 weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
then you create a definition of done, and then you move forward. And that is basically crisis management
Yeah.
at without a crisis,
Right.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so a managing partner. So we do portfolio optimization. So if
Mm-hmm.
there's a large company that has merged or acquired other businesses, how do we help them merge that? We
Mm.
also do explosive growth companies. We take care of portfolio optimization for private equity firms as well. So they've
Mm-hmm.
got a number of companies, different maturity, and then so we help kind of standardize the approach to building the business. And we do it through not consulting but interaction, and where we inject ourselves as fractional executives.
Right.
Meaning,
Okay. This
so
word keeps
it's
popping up. Fractional. Mm-hmm.
exact. Well,
You hear
it's
this a
so
lot now.
funny. I was on the plane, so I was helping my buddies build their business when I took a break from business, and
Yeah.
I'm on the plane from Houston to Vancouver, and you just chit chat and goes, "What do you do
Yeah.
for a living?" I'm like, I don't know. I help guys and women build their businesses. And he's like, "So you coach? No. You consultant? No." So I said, "What do you do?" And he's like, "Well, tell him what he did." He says, "You're a fractional executive. You're a fractional COO." I was like, "What the is fractional?" And all I could think of is fracking, right? So you think of
Yes,
Alberta, so you're
yes.
drilling and you're fracking. I was like, "No, man, I don't. I'm oil and gas used to, but not anymore." He said, "No, no, no. My buddy's a fractional CEO, and they
Mhm.
outsource part time their work." So I said, "Yeah, that's what we do." So,
Mm,
so
Very interesting.
Kaizen, yeah, Kaizen, Gemba Kaizen, meaning keeping the change close to the ground. So keeping, you know, things flowing. It's
Right.
always about measuring velocity, right? How do you keep your speed of operation at a sustainable pace, right? If you run a marathon, you're not going to put the same methodology as if you're sprinting, right?
Mhm.
Both have a clear objective that is different, yet we still use human legs to run from one point to another. Just the methodology to which you're using it to achieve the goal is different. So a lot of
Right.
people forget that. They go what, or why. No, you still want to win the race. What you do is you run. It's
Mhm.
how you run. The how
Mhm.
is critical in the path forward, and that applies to me every day because I use that same kind of principle to for myself, and that's our if I can help people, and this is our just cause, if we can help companies and people have a prosperous mindset,
Mhm.
meaning that life is not about vertical growth or running your business to the ground. It's cyclical. It's like a garden. It
Yes.
lives, it breeds, it dies, it regrows, and you just want
mm,
from year to year, you're trying to ensure that your tree fruit bears enough fruit for you, and you're always taking care of that to provide more fruit. You're not planting 15 trees in your garden every single year for every it's a different mindset that I'm trying to hope
Mhm.
to infuse by having that kind of continuous improvement mindset.
Love it. I love that what you just said. I love it because I just think of our world these days. And I've entrepreneur and I've belonged to many different entrepreneurial groups and conclaves from the entrepreneurs organization to groups at MIT and Boston and 20 years ago when I first got into it, there was the old saying, if you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, if you're not growing and if you haven't got exponential growth, you're nobody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I really don't believe that anymore. I believe that like it's exactly what you're saying, sustainable growth with our planet and we can only handle
Mm-hmm.
so much of this exponential. Everything can't be exponentially growing all the time because we're going to be gone.
Yeah.
So it's the sustainable growth and the pruning and the nurturing of what we need. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
And I love it. I love it because I've been really struggling with that over the past several years, being in that the entrepreneurial groups and conclaves. You read books. There's a book by Vern Harnish, Scale Up, Scale Up. You got to
Mm-hmm.
scale, scale, scale. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. Why do I need to go from 5 to 10,000 employees in 3 years? Is it for my ego or is it for what? Like, what am I really doing to help people, the planet, blah 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 blah, all the way down the line by doing that? Maybe 1,000 or whatever. I don't know, but it's that sustainable way of doing things. I mean, I know all the talk right now as of yesterday was Jeff Bezos, blasted into
Mm-hmm.
space, and then Richard Branson did it, a week before, and it's become a
Did it
bit of a,
before.
it's a
Give it to the old guy,
a
right?
week before, right? And it's
the
like a bit
space
of a,
race all over again. Oh my
yeah, and
God.
it's and I understand that we're humans, we need to explore, we need, that's kind of thing, but
Mm-hmm.
when it gets to be this kind of this muscle thing, and but it's, how do we do things sustainably? So I love what you're doing. I love what you're um you
Because
know
when you
yeah.
think about it, right?
Hmm.
So we work on average Monday to Friday, right? Most human beings work 5 days a week to get 2 weeks, 2 days off, right?
Yes.
So that's the profitability, right? So you
Yeah.
work a little bit to sustain what you enjoy doing, right?
Right.
So you enjoy skiing, snowboarding, walking. You don't get paid to do that. Right? So you still need to eat. You still need to have a home. So basically, you have to have some profit,
Yes.
which is okay.
Yes.
And then you have to be sustainable, meaning that if you work like I've had through the pandemic, at a certain point you're going to break,
Yes.
right? So you have to sustain that profitability at a good pace. That equals prosperity, meaning that you work, you go, you say. So it's the same thing when I was working with a company called BNSF Railway, one of the biggest railway companies in the US, right? They kept saying safety first, safety first, safety first, safety first. But you look at BHP Billiton, where they've debilitated their businesses, BHT, where people did not want to work for them because they were too safe. It took you half hour to get ready to do a 15-minute job. You had to do work assessment, risk assessment, and all that good stuff. So people now didn't want to work. So we came to it's safe production. Without production, there's no safety, because if you're not making money, there's no business, right? And the economy is based on that. So for me, if you address change through somebody's wallet, consumerism is the biggest driver. So if you help consumers make the right choices by providing them with the right choices, and that mentality of prosperity, right? We shop local. We don't do, like, drives me nuts that my wife does not buy paper towels anymore. I have to go and, oh shit, oh, I used the wrong one. I used the white one instead of the blue one. So that there's no more paper towels in our house, right? So because for her it's important, right? We don't so anyway, sorry, I got onto the rant here about prosperity, but that's what businesses are, right? Everybody wants to be prosperous. Everybody wants to contribute to the greater good, but also be able to go fishing or take time off or go, you know, I mean, Nigel, you've done it. You've worked hard and you've been able to take your family away for, but you
for a year,
you worked your ass off to get there, right? So
yeah. You also talk about what you call the singularity of purpose. So yes. what's that all about?
Again, BNSF Railways, this older gentleman, we're sitting down and we're having a conversation between union and management. And they hired me and they said, "Oh, Martin, you kind of bring everybody on board. You listen to everybody." So we're listening. And this older gentleman, he said, "You know what? The one thing that I truly and honestly miss is that when we all had the same purpose." And he says it, he goes, "When we were singular in purpose." And I was like, damn. I was like, beauty. I said, "Can you say that again?" He's like, "Singular in purpose." I said, "So singularity of purpose. So everybody aligned, everybody rowing in the same direction, everybody contributing to the same goal, everybody walking in the same step. That singularity of purpose, meaning that our job is to move trains safely. That's our job. That's our singular purpose. Everything else falls in line. Like, you guys might do something different than I do, but yet our ultimate purpose is to move trains safely." And so that just went, whoa, angels were singing, trumpets, where I was like, I got to use this again. And that's what I've applied to a lot of companies and say, okay, what's the purpose that you want to drive? How do we drive singular? Is everything that you are doing acts towards that? So, we made a decision 2-3 days ago that we're going to probably move back to Europe in 2023, probably northern Spain, southern France.
Nice.
We want to move back there. So I told my family, I said, everything that we do has to be focused towards that, because that's the goal that we want to achieve. So you have to learn French, you have to learn Spanish, we have to sell the house, we have to sell the cars. You see, everything is based on that purpose of moving to France.
Right.
It's out there. It's in the world now through the podcast. So there's no turning back.
Yeah, you've done it now. Yeah. No, but it'll happen though. I mean, you put it, it's in your mindset now. It's in your mindset. It's in everybody's mindset. And they say, you write something down as your goals, but I mean, if it's in your head, things naturally manifest. It's a real, especially with the family, I know. And also like with our family too, I had a coach, Kevin Lawrence, for years and years and years. And I had my list of things and my asteroid belt and knocking all these things out of the way to get to, what I really wanted to do. And my big thing was to be able to set my business up to run without me, so then I could take a year off and travel with the family. Right. And kind of like you going to Spain or France was kind of that purpose. And so we worked this way through. But then when I got to the end of moving all these things out, my coach called me and he said, "Hey, Nigel, we pretty much put everything to bed here. Do you still want to do that year with you?" And I'm like, oh yeah, that was the and I'm like, oh, I forgot. Yeah, no, I didn't. But it was just like, oh, that's the thing. He says, but then I started making up all these excuses that I couldn't do it, but it was all in my head. And then within 3 months we were gone and we made it happen. But it manifested all those years. And it actually, when you get there, it's almost surreal. And it's hard to believe that you actually got to that point. Pretty cool.
So
stuff.
can I ask a question?
Yeah,
because
sure.
It's hard for me. I'm holding back because I usually ask all the questions.
I know you do.
So Devin, how did you? Because I'm curious. Because you're an adult now. My kids are a bit younger. You've lived through this. What were your feelings? What were your emotions? Did you feel like you're being ripped away from your foundations or your friends or anything like that? Like, what was your? Did Nigel, your dad, and create that framework for you? Like, tell me how you felt, because I think that's a
totally.
I'd love to hear that. Sorry, Nigel.
Yeah,
no problem.
Absolutely. If not the most epic experience of my life, other than all the other traveling that I was so fortunate to get to do with my family and by myself or whatnot. But at the beginning, yes, at the beginning it feels like, oh no, I'm leaving my friends for like a year. Like that amount of time was completely insane to me. I was like, a month is a long time, right? A couple of weeks, but a year. But after the first month and got into that rhythm of like, we're going to go see new things, we're going to go see new places and meet new people. Don't even I'm not saying, oh, goodbye friends, I don't even think about you anymore, but it was every single day was just another like life-changing experience. And I feel like it really made and created the foundation of the human that I am now, just by seeing all these different cultures and meeting all these different people and going, oh my God, like I take so much for granted, being in Canada and living here, and every day to day of just like, even going to the grocery store and, get whatever you want and, have a nice place to live and whatever. But it really just changed. It shook up my reality and changed everything about, I think, the human that I am, because you just get to experience so many people and so many different cultures. And it definitely after, and then when you come back, the funniest thing is it's like, oh, hey, everybody, like, oh, how's it going? Been gone for a year. And everyone's, you've gone for wait, didn't you just like go and like, what have you been doing? Oh, I'm still working at, what, McDonald's, or I'm still working at the the pet clinic or whatever it is, right? It's like everybody just is in the exact same rhythm as when you left, and you've experienced so much. So it's just such a hard thing to explain and come and talk to people when I got home. It was just such a weird experience, because I was like, oh my God, it was like a time, you guys were like stuck in a time loop, and I went and I did all these things, and I come back and they're like, oh, hey, I saw you a week ago, right? No, it was a year and a half ago, but it was incredible, absolutely incredible. And saying again, like just experiencing culture and different places in the world, you realize like, oh, there's a lot more to this planet than my backyard. Or whatever. So yeah, pretty cool. I mean, I had the same experience as Devin. I was gone and then I came back, and you'd run into people, or even I go into my office and we have huddles, and got in a huddle with everybody, like, hey Nigel, you're back. And I'm like, yeah, how is it? Oh, what was your favorite place? What was your? And I go, oh, well, there were so many places, so many people, and I talk, and then within 5 minutes, poof, everybody scampers back to, it's just like, I'm just standing there like, like I just had the most incredible life-changing experience with my family, and all these, we were in Myanmar and Bhutan and some places I never even heard of before we stepped out the door, because we ended up, meeting people along the way, said, you got to go here, call this guy or send this guy a text and they'll look after you, or they'll meet you. And so we end up in Bhutan, we end up in Myanmar, we ended up in Argentina and Colombia. And I just like, they weren't even on the radar, these places. And, it was just like,
Wow, it was actually really hard. It was hard for quite a while. I wouldn't even say reintegrating because I didn't want to reintegrate into the same old, same old. It was just
Mhm.
mind. It was a real mind bender. Yeah, yeah.
But
Now,
that talks what
mm,
you guys have lived in the return back talks a lot about what you go through with PTSD, right? So you
Mm.
go and you go
right,
and
right.
you go do all these things. You're in a different reality where life and death is at the fingertips all the time, and you come back and you go, kind of ice cream you want? And you're like, what? What do you want? Chocolate or vanilla? Like, oh yeah, like that's the hardest choice I have to make today, right?
Yeah,
And that the choice is the hardest thing to come back with. I don't. Oh, what do you mean? I can get up and not have to duck to make sure that I don't get my head chopped off or shot off if I have to go
yeah.
pee in the middle of the night, right? So there's that mentality. What you guys have felt is
Mm,
what every a lot of a lot in the U.S. military, because they go for so long. They
yeah,
go for a full year. So the U.S. military a little bit more, it's a little bit more traumatizing because they're gone for a year and they come
yeah.
back and their whole world is shifted, and
Wow.
they've lived through them. And when you see these like YouTube videos of these kids running after them, like they're gone for a year and you've not seen your dad, man. I cry all the time. I look at those,
Mm,
they pop up on my YouTube, and I'm like, is anybody watching? Because I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna cry.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
for sure. No, those ones
Wow.
definitely get me too. Yeah.
Yeah, so that what you felt is what
Mm,
most army people come back to. They go, oh shit, like
Wow.
I'm a different person now. People expect you to be the exact same person
Mm.
as before you left.
yeah. And things are moving in exactly the same way as you live. Like people are doing the same things and whatever and things, and you've shifted, you've changed
Mm-hmm.
so much and evolved so much in good, bad, or indifferent, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
you've shifted. You get dropped back into, this weird reality that is the same. And you just shake your head. And it's just a really, really, really weird.
Well, it's like everything that you think, everything that's the most important to you when you leave, you come back and you're like, oh, I don't even think about any of that stuff anymore. That, at least for me, like everything that I
Mm,
found the most important things in my life, besides like my friends and family, coming back, I was like, oh my God, what was I thinking about? Like that is totally a different reality for me now. I don't think about any of those things. I'm in a total different path. So yeah, it's a unique experience for sure.
I
yeah.
mean,
I mean, I've always thought that, for kids, graduating from high school, I think the best thing, and I think the best thing is, they take off and they go backpacking and whatever. That used to be the thing.
mm-hmm.
I'm going to Europe, going backpacking, but even to push it even further, to go and do, say, a 3-month volunteer in some other land that's so different than, I mean, that would probably, that has the most profound effect on your life. Doing something like that, and it almost should be mandatory, really.
Oh, I
um,
agree. I
as
agree.
opposed to coming out and going straight into university or doing whatever, because you're not ready. You're not ready. Some people are, but most aren't. And it's going out and discovering yourself and then coming back and deciding what you want to do.
Sure.
I think it's I've been saying that for years and years and years.
And you don't have to go
Yeah.
far. I think that
No,
for
yeah,
people who
true.
like, I think donating your time, living a different reality,
Hmm.
understanding the pain of others. Like I
Mm.
volunteer as as you know, instead of gifting money, I
Hmm.
decided I said, okay, what can I do? How can I use my skills to? So through the podcast, I met a gentleman who was a board director on Mission Possible. Mission Possible is a non-for-profit in the East End of Vancouver that helps people get back on track,
Hmm.
that or on track or back on track to get work when they've had a hard time. So
Hmm.
there's a coaching side of it, but there's also the enterprise where there's 5 businesses and then we bring people up. So you go out there and you meet people and you go, wow, you listen to their stories. And there's a lot of people who you think, one guy was working for a big firm in California and he was a functional addict. And when the business went down a little bit, he just kept on using the same way and lost absolutely everything. So
Yeah.
you think you get these perception of, okay, well, I'm driving through the East End, a bunch of bums. And that's not what I think, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who think that, right? Oh, they've got nothing. They're useless. And then you realize, oh, there's a lot of mental illness. There's a lot of people who've gone really like a
Hmm.
bad hand at cards, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you don't have to go far to start
No.
giving and realizing that, oh shit, I got it good, man. So
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you that I think, I mean, there's these organizations, they need funding to operate. So giving a check is fantastic, is great. And giving of yourself is great. And giving of your family is, there's nothing quite, I've said it many, many times, giving as a family together, a family unit,
mhm,
going downtown and helping out in the Vancouver East Side or whatever it is, just for,
mhm,
a few hours. There's just so much that you're able to give, but you get so much back in
mhm,
here, right? As a family unit, I don't think there's anything more powerful. Just like you said, there's one other point that you've fired over to me here, and I'm really intrigued by this. And it's called Stoicism. Is that
oh yeah,
pronounced correctly?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So it's really it's very very cool concept. It goes back to ancient Greece,
yeah.
and some of the philosophers in Greece. And yeah, I don't know if Dev knows anything about it, but I'd love to learn a little bit about Stoicism here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As you said, Stoicism started. Stoic was a porch, and so back in the Greek times, 2,000 plus years ago, when philosophy was really big, and then it was adopted by a lot of Romans, emperors, and Nero and Marcus Aurelius, and those people saw the practicality of the behavioral based philosophy. And what I
Yes.
mean by that is that Gemba Kaizen is about behaviors. Like, what behaviors are you doing that are implementing or contributing to change, right?
Yes.
Singularity of purpose. What am I doing today to push the organization forward?
Mhm.
And so Stoicism, I fell upon that through Daily Stoic, through Ryan Holiday, and it's exactly that. It has four pillars, which
Mhm.
has justice, wisdom, courage, and temperance.
Mhm.
So what am I doing today to offer wisdom? What am I doing today to be as courageous as I can? And it's very behavioral based, and it also focuses on what can you control, right?
Mhm.
So it's not
Mhm.
about living in your brain. Is what can I truly control? Can I control my wife? Can I control my kids? Absolutely not. You can't even control your body to a certain point. You can only
Mhm.
control your thoughts.
Mhm.
There are certain things that I cannot do at the age of 50 that I did at the age of 20. Uh, and Nigel, you can attest to
Yeah.
that.
Only a few things, but hey,
Being a very involved rugby player, I cannot hit people the same way that I hit when I was 20 years old. I cannot run at people the same way as I did before as well. But I can definitely throw an axe better now. Um, so with Stoicism is about that. Is about to say, well, one is the Japanese have the Bushido, which is, how do you remember? And if you live with death on the mind, you will always live the best day possible. So you
Right.
use the Latin word memento mori, means remember death. So when you remember death every day, then you become this wonderful human being to go, like Devin, you said, this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And it really falls in line with, singularity of purpose. What's my purpose in life is to be a good human being. And the four values that I've decided to adopt are the Stoic values, right? So how am I being just to myself and others? I work hard at it because I'm the smartest person on the road. Everybody else is stupid when I'm driving, and I have a hard time
Yeah.
being tempered
Uh,
and being wise and all, because I choose some pretty wise words when I'm driving. Uh, so those are the things that I go, journaling was part of that Stoicism. Having courageous communications at home and at work, and temperance out of all the things in this world of abundance, of being tempered in choice, being tempered in food, being tempered in approach. I enjoy beer, I enjoy wine, and I don't abuse it. Right?
mhm.
Sugar is the enemy for me. I'm Scottish, so I have a sweet tooth. So how do I make the choices that are beneficial for you and the organization? And in Stoicism, a lot of people think that it's and it falls in line with business continuity, because you think of malarium something. So what bad things are going to happen today, and how will I react to them?
Mm.
So you're always prepared, right?
Mhm.
So today I'm going to be disappointed by my son who's going to want to watch TV instead of doing his homework. Okay, how am I going to deal with that? Right? So there's a lot of, I want to say planning, but just preparing yourself for stuff that you're going to be faced with so that you're proactive and not reactive. So it just kind of falls in line with, you know, Kaizen and singularity of purpose and all the way that I've been thinking for a long time.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, what am I doing today? How can I help? And that servant leadership, if you want to kind of put it full circle of joining the army, is to say, what am I going to do? Right. When I coached my kids field hockey, I knew nothing about field hockey, but I saw that the leadership on the field was horrible. These poor young ladies didn't know how to coach, didn't know how to lead. So I said, okay, instead of, you know, standing on the sidelines and beaking at the coaches or the referees, the umpires, I said, I'll coach. And I learned with them. So
Yep.
that's the Stoicism philosophy is all about.
Mhm.
What are you going to do to contribute to the better good of the society?
Right, right, right. Wow, that's really cool.
And
That's
now I am not
because I
perfect at
never
it.
knew. Yeah, oh yeah. None of
Far from
us.
it.
Yeah. uh, and you know, there's another thing too. Is like I love podcasts. I love, you know, this because there's a lot of, you know, it's all storytelling, right?
Mhm.
And you know, we talk about storytelling, and the best way that I learn is through people telling real life stories. It's like sitting around a fire like the old
Mhm.
cavemen used to do, and they used to share wisdom and stories. And you know, I think you're a huge advocate of this, you know, learning through storytelling, right? And it's
Well, I think that for you
you
guys,
know.
what you guys are doing, there's not
Mhm.
enough of. I think
Mhm.
this father son thing is just absolutely magical. And I mean, I'm serious. You go to France, I go to
Mhm.
Europe, you go,
Mhm.
what are you? I am a baker. Okay, what
Yes.
was your dad? My dad was a baker,
Baker. Yeah.
and and my grandfather, he was a baker too. And so
Yes.
they've got this
The son of the
pride.
baker. Mhm.
Exactly, they've got this pride in work that is passed on from father to son, or from parent to, sorry, I didn't mean to be sexist in any way, shape, or form, from parent to child, right?
Mhm.
So I there's a lot of people that most likely would envy the relationship that you two have. So good
Mhm.
on you for doing what you guys are
Mhm.
doing together. I
Thank you.
mean it.
That
No,
means a lot.
thanks. Yeah. Yeah. No, Dev puts up with me on these things.
Yeah. No.
No, Dev, I mean, my kids, they're, you know, we do a lot of fun stuff. We surf together and whatever. And, you know, it's really interesting that if I'm out there and I'm floundering, I know in the corner of they're not going to admit it, but in the corner of their eye, they're going to watch that I don't drown. And actually, Devin did drag me out. Remember that time what did I do? I smashed, I got cut, my foot got cut by my skag or something. And I was laying on I crawled out laying on the beach, and then you came in and you dragged me, you dragged me out of a surf.
You were good. You were fine though.
I was fine. I got
Yeah,
winded.
whatever.
I got winded. I can't remember whatever happened, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
that's pretty. So
Oh, it
yeah,
was your
yeah.
knee. You blew your knee or
Well, I blew
something.
my knee out.
You
That's
blew
right.
your
Yeah,
knee
yeah,
out.
yeah. That's right. So it was, yeah.
Just yeah.
So I think they do actually watch out for. They would never admit it, but they do.
A little bit. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. No, it's great. It's been great having you on, Martin. And we're gonna grab that lunch together. I think next week or the week after. I can't remember when we've got it booked, but be sweet. But yeah. Anything else? Any other notes or points or anything, Dev? Any other little point or anything that you would say?
No, that was so
Anything
good. And
there?
I'm just stoked to have you back on the show at some point and hear about all your new endeavors. But
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yes.
Yeah, it was hard because I'm usually the one asking all the questions all the time. So I felt like I was talking too much, but I'm like, no, I'm the
No,
guest,
you're
man.
the one that's supposed to
I
talk.
gotta
Yeah.
fill the airtime here. I gotta put some stuff. I gotta make sure these guys get good ratings on that. So I mean, for
Perfect.
me, the key thing, I think the if there's one thing that I would like to say, whoever's listening and
Mhm.
improving and making the world a better place, is just taking the time to think about who you are and what you bring, and that normal is okay,
Mm,
and that you don't have to be a gajillionaire to make a difference, right?
Yes.
Take the advantage. Like you see, I have to tell this funny story. So I'm
Yeah.
riding my motorbike
Here's the
down
story.
the road here, and this guy. So there's this old lady. She's definitely Indian immigrant. She's wearing all this stuff, and she's
Mhm,
walking with a cane.
mhm.
And so I'm like, okay. And so there's this, I go, a guy my age on a pedal bike, you know, comes off. She's at the corner. I'm riding down my bike so I can see what's going on. He gets off his bike, runs towards her to try and help her to cross the street, offers his arm, and the lady takes his cane and smacks him. I'm like, dude, dude, think of the cultural, what she's thinking, right? Look at and analyze the person that you're having a conversation with or you're trying to help. They don't think the same way as you do. You don't think the same way she does. She hit him like 2 or 3 times. I laughed so hard in my helmet. I was laughing, and this guy just gets back, and he runs back, and she's waving his cane. Let me be. I'll do my stuff my own. Right? They're so used to doing stuff by themselves, right? Because they're mostly, get along. Yet there's like 3 billion people in India, right? Nobody's gonna help me across the street. It was so funny. So, anyways, whoever that guy is, I hope you're listening. Keep it up, man. Just because you failed once, don't stop helping other people, man. Just do what you can to help out. That's just the funniest thing ever.
Oh, that's a great.
I love
That's
that.
great.
Oh my god.
Oh man, I guess we'll
Well,
wrap it
I
on
think
that.
on
Dave.
I think on that note, we're gonna wrap this up. If you guys would like to know more about Martin, we're gonna put links in the description to the podcast, to everything else he's got going on. And one more time, thank you so much for being on the show, man. It was a pleasure having you, and I'm stoked to see you again and have you back on the show at some point.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Martin.
Keep
Really,
knocking it out of the park.
Thanks, you too, man.
thanks, Martin.